Hello to everyone joining us. Okay, now it's broadcasting live. I feel like I'm on the I don't know why. I get so outrageous during these events. Hello to everyone joining us. If you've never been here before, tell us in the chat
Woo.
on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your company's candidate experience? I can't wait
We
to
gotta
see
know.
You
a
said
500.
1 to 5? 5 being good, right? Yeah, the best.
Yes,
Sorry.
one
Okay.
being terrible, 5 being the best. Isn't that
I
usually the
just I just saw someone say 500. We gotta
same?
hear from you.
Wow, where? Okay, I'm gonna need to know where.
Wait, no one has said 1 yet.
Some twos, but mostly for, oh, it's Gen 2. I'm sorry.
George is just showing off. I'm crying. I'm going to start asking in my, because we do onboarding like 30, 60, 90-day surveys. I might start asking like, how would you rate your candidate experience and get this data from, because
I
I
know
don't.
we're gonna, yeah.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. For everyone joining us, if you see this, just drop it. Oh, by the way, the default on the chat is set to hosts and panelists, which means only the three of us will see what you're saying. However, you just need to drop down to everybody and then you can talk to everyone here. I always have to give this reminder. I don't know why it defaults to only
I
hosts and
I
panelists.
does that.
I know. I'm gonna go play with the Zoom settings after this. Just being chaotic as hell on this Wednesday. Fine Wednesday in August, the last Wednesday of August. I
Oh
don't
my
think I'm
God, how
ready.
did that happen?
I'm ready for fall. I am ready for my warm drinks, my blanket time, my spooky season. I'm gonna start watching my horror movies in the next few weeks. I can't wait. I love fall. Okay.
Me
Same.
too.
I am so excited. Okay. Wow. Sherry, good to know that yours defaulted to everyone. Also, Taylor and Travis are engaged. I love that we are here for another event and it's already happening. We are so
How are
chaos.
we supposed to work?
How are we
That's
supposed to
such a
work?
real question. That's she is my parasocial relationship since I was like 7. So I'm actually a little upset that I'm never gonna be invited to her wedding. You
You
know?
never know. You never know, Riley. You never know.
Yeah, that's
Maybe we'll,
true.
maybe we will all be invited to her wedding and we'll get a royal wedding finally. I still remember with the royal wedding how we all woke up early or stayed up late. I can't
Yep.
remember to watch it. We're gonna get that. Anyways, that
This
is
is
not.
my royal wedding.
This was supposed to be a Sabrina Carpenter themed event. So if you love Sabrina
Sorry, Team
Carpenter,
Taylor.
sorry, Deep Taylor. This is supposed to be Sabrina Carpenter themed. By the way, you all are entered in to win tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter at Madison Square Garden. Thank you to Team Taylor for letting me have all the fun in the world on this event. But also, you will see no pictures of our faces cropped onto Sabrina Carpenter's body solely because I don't really think her outfits are HR appropriate. And I felt uncomfortable cropping our heads onto her body, which it was fine for Taylor Swift because we got like really cool ball gowns. Sabrina has a different style that I love, but I don't think appropriate for me to crop that on her body. I didn't like, it felt weird, so I didn't do it. But we are here to do HR therapy. And I said, thank you to Team Taylor because they're giving away tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter. And also they're one of the best ATSs I've ever seen. So we'll get to that in a little bit though.
Yes, it is.
Stay
I know.
tuned. Stay tuned. But today's event, I'm working late because I'm elevating candidate experience. Now, here's Sabrina Carpenter in that voice. Here's what we're doing today. If you've never been to HR therapy, you're surely in for a treat. I'm going to give you a quick rundown. You're going to meet the cast and crew of characters if you've never met any of us. We're going to have fun. We're going to do Dear Hibba and Friends, which is like an advice style section where we answer questions that we've gotten, and then we will do live Q&A. So if you have any pressing questions about candidate experience, wrangling hiring managers, figuring out anything about recruiting, drop it in the live Q&A. You can do it right this second simply by clicking the more button and then go into Q&A. And then we'll wrap with a what's next because I always like to leave you with what are we going to do after all of this. Before we dive in, though, this is being recorded. None of your information is being broadcasted anywhere in the world, so don't worry. The chat is the most fun you may ever have in a virtual webinar, but also super hella distracting if you are somebody who can't multitask. And just to let you know, I am presenting, I'm slide guiding, and I'm playing in the chat, so you will see me multitask and do it all. And then the last 20 minutes, I will give you a teaser as to what's to come next, and we'll get to all your questions. So make sure you're dropping them in there. Okay, finally, who am I and what the hell we're doing? Riley, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Sarika and we'll wrap with me, even though I'm in the middle. But Riley,
Best for
welcome
last.
to our therapy.
Hi, everyone. I'm absolutely so thrilled to be here. I feel like Sarika and Heba and I are all besties now, so that's really fun. I am a recruiter. I work for a company called Western Computer. We implement Microsoft Dynamics 365 technology for our clients and customers. I've been in recruiting for my entire professional career. I landed in it completely on accident, just like everyone does. And I really fell in love with the candidate experience kind of piece of my job. And I love getting to connect with people and get them the jobs that they dream of. I'm not sure how much you want me to share, Heba, but I live in Northern California. I'm an Idahoan dog mom, so you probably will see one of my two dogs pop onto the screen because they love being famous as well. And I think that's a good place to start. But if there's anything that I missed, let me know, and I'm happy to continue word vomiting onto all of you.
No, I loved that. As Sarika goes and looks for her dogs.
Did you know that you did know it? See,
I knew you were looking for your dog because your dog likes to make an appearance. So
yes, well, there's two. One's over here who's always just chilling. The other one, I never know where she is, but she's the feisty one. There's Sage is a 9-year-old pit lab rescue.
Oh,
Rosie is almost, she'll be 2 in December. She's a Cavapoo, but she is feisty. She's smart, but like she stubborn. Like she will not listen. Just doesn't feel like it. Kind of looks back at you like, whatever.
like
Uh,
us.
I am Sarka Lamont. For those of you who don't know me, Eric said it best. When I'm on HR therapy, it is wall-to-wall chaos, and I'm okay with it. I am here for it. This is why I love coming on HR therapy. But I am the Chief People Officer at Vidyard. If you don't know what Vidyard is, you better ask somebody. It's a great AI-enabled video tool used in go-to-market workflows. It is the bomb. It's very fun to use. If any of you have a sales organization, holler at me after this. Let's chat Vidyard. I am so excited to be here. I do own recruitment in my organization. I love the way that we do recruitment in my organization because we use our own product. We try to be really empathetic. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the ideas, and I can't take any credit for that. That is like my exceptional team. They are obsessed with the candidate experience. I've never actually met, I've been in a lot of companies with recruitment teams, but this talent that I have is just like incredibly obsessed with the candidate experience, which I love. And also, I have to say this, and I'm not paid to say this because I'm not sponsored by them, but shout out to Team Taylor. I also see that my rep, Anna, is on here because she be saying, go Sarka. We've been demoing Team Taylor over the last number of weeks, and bless you, Anna, because you put up with all of our needs for like 87 demos. It is quite frankly the most incredible ATS I have ever seen. Heba told me that when she told me I got to check it out, but I've been in like demo land with ATS systems. So I've been demoing a lot of really amazing tools. It's amazing, y'all. Like I can't even, and again, they're not paying me to say this. I just feel like I have to just share that with the team. So super excited to have Team Taylor here with us today as well.
Love it.
but
And
before you go, I want to say we're using Team Taylor also at Western Computer. We just got it implemented. We've been using it for a little less than a year now, and it is truly incredible, especially again with the emphasis on candidate experience. So I'm sure throughout kind of the questions that we'll be answering today, I will be talking about it a lot. Also, I'm not personally not sponsored. The event is. They're such an amazing ATS.
yeah.
Wanted to throw that out there too.
But if you
Yeah.
want to sponsor me or have me be the
Yeah,
best, let me
seriously.
know.
I'm here. My email is, I'm happy to throw it in the chat if you need it. So
10 minutes in, it's already chaos. I also love Team Taylor. I just feel blessed to get to work with them. Like when I evaluate systems, and I've seen a lot, like I stand to be just so impressed by everything they have. That's why I told Sarika to check them out. I am not fortunate where we get to use them internally. I really wish we could, but I've
Yeah.
seen their product and am obsessed with it. So when Sarika was like, hey, I'm evaluating ATSs, I said, go check out Team Taylor. But who am I and why am I here? I'm Hiba Yusuf. I'm the Chief People Officer at Workweek. When I am not Chief People Officering, I'm going to turn that into a verb. I'm also the founder and creator behind the wonderful brand I Hate It Here, which is a newsletter and podcast all about how to make workplaces better. HR therapy was born from my brain on a train where I thought HR people need a place to show up as themselves, ask all the questions they want to ask, and actually have fun. Because this job can be really draining, and we need an opportunity to like be ourselves, meet really cool people, and have a lot of fun while doing it. So I'm happy to be here. I'm your host. I'm going to contribute to this event, and we're we're just going to have a good time. So without further ado, let's get into it. Dear Hibba, Riley, and Sarika, loosely inspired by Dear Anne, an advice column I read growing up. I will never get tired of talking about how I read an advice column at 10 years old. My first question, though, we're talking about candidate experience, and I have to call this one out. What's the most common gap between what companies think their candidate experience is and what candidates actually feel? So we saw a lot of people in the chat saying 4 or 5. I'm sure you all are 4 or 5. I'm not saying that. But I do think that there's actually a gap between what we think we've built and what people are actually feeling. Riley, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would love to. So I think every company, no one ever is going to say, yeah, we actually suck at communicating and our candidates, we actually don't care about them, even if we want to get them hired later down the road. No one's actually thinking that as a company or a recruiter company, right? So what companies generally think is we communicate, we're transparent, and we're really, really fast. But what candidates can often feel, even like the companies often overestimate, right, how clear and how timely they are. Silence inevitably will feel much louder to a candidate than it will to the recruiter or to the hiring managers. So delays, vague feedback, radio silence after interviews, that's definitely a really, really big gap. Something that's really easy to make that change, to make a change in your organization, which we're going to touch again later, is just AR, like rejection emails. They can feel really, really personalized, even if they are already just a templated email that you're sending out to every single person that you're rejecting. So golden rule, how would you want to be treated as a candidate? We've all had crappy experiences as a candidate trying to find jobs. How do you want to be treated as a candidate, and how can you implement those changes as a recruiting practice and as VP of people, right? Or whatever your job is. Anything to add, Sarika?
Yeah, I think communication and like follow up and the timeliness of how you follow up and what you follow up with is definitely one of the most common gaps that I see.
Yeah.
And I say this as I think my team has always done a really great job of prioritizing the candidate experience even prior to my arrival a few years ago. But I do think like when I dug in, one of the areas that I saw was like we were good at like providing feedback or rejection when someone was going through the interview process, but we weren't always great. We took a little bit longer when we were like dispositioning someone and not necessarily like, oh, we'll put them here, but then not always following up when I'm like, but you have the automated capability to do that in our tool. And we have this like such a thoughtful rejection email that's like automated, like use it. You set it up that way. It's just when you know that someone isn't going to be a fit, let them know. You don't have to wait till the whole position is done. If you know that someone is not a fit, right away, then I would say go ahead and do that. Like don't make people wait for that. I think that was something that we weren't always great at in the beginning. I think communicate, and I even said like there was a lot of ways that we made it personal in terms of like, we know it's hard to find jobs, like check out these job boards or use our tool. Like you can use Vidyard for free. Here's a code. But then I was like, well, that's interesting. So we're a video-based organization, a video-based product. And I recognize that like we definitely position ourselves more within like sales and go-to-market, but people also, including us, use our tool for like internal communication, training, whatever. Why are we not embedding a video inside of our rejection email to make it even more personalized? Like, why aren't we displaying the use of our own product and they're like, oh, that's a really good point. Like, why don't we do that? Right. So it's like small tweaks like that, that really help to sort of humanize and personalize the overall experience that I think people really, and I said this before, like I get messages all the time in my DMs and my LinkedIn. I'm like, I didn't get the opportunity, I didn't get to move forward with the opportunity of Vidya, but oh my gosh, that was like the most humane way of being rejected from a job like ever. And I always I don't take pride in like someone obviously being rejected from a job, but
Yeah.
I do have a lot of pride in people at least feeling like we're being supportive in the way that we are giving feedback or giving you resources because we know the job market's so hard.
Yeah. I think that when I think of the like biggest common gap I see too is people saying like, oh, we're candidate first, but then everything they do is anti that. Like that is actually the biggest gap I think I see because they'll be like, oh, we're candidate first. And then it'll be like, but we have 8 interview steps and a project,
Uh-huh.
not paid.
Well,
And I'm
that's a
like,
good one.
how can you say you care about the candidate experience when your interview process is like very long? It makes people do free work, which like I love projects, but we always pay them. We always pay if they're over 30 minutes, I think. And then we always make it clear why we're doing a project. We don't include them into every role. And so I think that part stands out to me the most. So like I love looking at like people's career pages and like seeing what they say about them and then going and looking at their job description or like asking my friend, "Hey, have you applied for a job here? What is it actually like?" Because I do think sometimes we're like so optimistic about building the best experience and then we can't actually get everyone internally aligned to like deliver that actual experience. So like that's something I think is a huge gap in a lot of places. And I've worked really hard to like not have that be a gap at work week, but like we definitely still have areas of opportunity too. And that takes me to like the next question. So again, Sabrina Carpenter, when candidates say a company left an impression, what's usually behind that feeling? Sarika?
I want to be optimistic and feel like when candidates say that, it's like a positive impression.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, if like my LinkedIn feed is like any indication, or even some of the numbers we've seen here in the first question you asked, unfortunately, the way that the world works though, like we don't always hear the positive things. We tend to hear the negative things and the things that aren't working versus the things that are. And so I do feel like the number one thing that I do feel folks feel is, I haven't heard anything. Like I just sent my application and hear nothing. So it's like into the abyss. Like I don't even know if they got my resume, if I'm going to ever hear anything back. The other part is like if they're fortunate enough to get through the sort of like first sort of stage of like having your resume reviewed out of like 1,500, resumes that they probably get. I've also heard like the experience, like the interviewing experience, like the manager didn't, paid like no attention. It felt like they were multitasking. It felt like they weren't prepared. Like they didn't even know what they didn't spend, it was clear they didn't spend time like reading my background and like really even reviewing my resume. And they were doing that like in the interview itself. And I hear a lot of that. Or I hear on like, at least from like the recruitment side, what people are saying, like, oh, the recruiter was so disengaged, or the recruiter was so rude, or the recruiter didn't communicate, or was very
Yep.
dismissive. And like nothing gets my goat more than that. Like if a candidate feels like the recruiter or like the initial starting point of the process makes you feel like shit, I have a severe problem with that, because that's not like your whole process is going to be broken then if you're starting with that initial impression. That's generally, I think, what I hear. I don't always hear the positives, unfortunately.
That's so true though. I always hear the
Yeah.
negatives. I've gotten some like wild emails from candidates that were very intense. So I never get this was such a great process. I always get here's all the things I hated about it and why. And I'm like, okay, fine. Riley, what about you? Riley, do you hear more positive or negative? Or Sarika and I just like the sounding board for the negative ones? Like what's going on here?
So part of it, I think, also is I am the recruiter for my company. I'm the team of one. I'm the only one who's managing recruiting processes. So you guys might hear the more negative stuff because you're a bit higher up, which again, like people definitely sometimes feel a bit more ballsy reaching out to people that they didn't actually interact with but have a really great title. So I definitely get a bit of both. I've gotten emails from candidates that are like, wow, I can't believe you let me go. Like, you guys are so stupid, which is an insane thing to get, even when, like, I don't even have a conversation with you. But that's beside the point. We also definitely do get some positive feedback, which is really, really amazing. And ultimately a huge testament to the tool that we're using. Like, Team Taylor is such an amazing tool, but ultimately that's for us. That's for us on the internal side. No candidate is going to remember the cool ATS or the application process there, or a cool job post. Like, no one cares about that. What they're going to remember is how the people that they interacted with made them feel. Everyone always remembers feelings much more than the actual data points, right? That's why we have jobs for data. Um, they remember how they were cared for and how they felt. So even if there's some things that are gaps, or again, I'm a team of one, so inevitably sometimes things are going to slip through the cracks. People feel confident in reaching out to me. Hey, I haven't heard back in a couple days, just wanted to see how things are going, versus, hey, I haven't heard back and I deserve such and such and such. And while that's true, like, they feel the tone of the whole process is much different when you're actually taking care of the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
So there's definitely positives and negatives in terms of leaving impressions. And also, I saw in the chat, this is a Sabrina Carpenter lyric. I'm glad that we all caught that. Um, it's
Thanks,
like her
guys.
most famous one. Yeah, good job, Heba.
I
Love
did.
that addition. And again, candidates can feel when they feel like a number, or when they feel like the recruiter is rushed, or the hiring manager doesn't actually want to speak to them, or they have an important call right after this and they're more focused on that than the conversation they're having. No one is stupid. We're all human beings in the process, and we can all feel when we're not being treated like how we would want to be treated.
Yeah.
One caveat though I will say is when I gave that feedback on like candidates, I will say like I don't hear this from our candidates necessarily. Like I always get like a lot of positive feedback about like I started this whole thing by saying like my, recruitment team of two, I would say two and a half really, because I have a leader who kind of leads a lot of places, but my two recruiters like are incredible at following up and the communications and making people feel really great and prepping them for, the next interview they're going to have and like what to expect. So folks always feel really comfortable when they go in. They're not like totally freaking out. And then it's like when I then I meet every new hire as they start within their first week. And it's like the first thing I always hear is the recruitment process was the most amazing thing I've like ever gone through. And I then like it's so funny how many times my recruiters become friends with all these new hires like in the long haul because that's who they've engaged with and that's who they've built that initial relationship with. And these two young women who are my recruiters, they take a lot of pride in building that connection because then that translates into like they're running onboarding as well. And then that translates in. So from my own experience and my own organization, it's super positive, but and I wish that I could just like, replicate that or like we could teach a course on what we do and what works and what doesn't work. But I feel like as a whole industry wide, what we are seeing a lot on like that's not what surfaces up on LinkedIn. It's all the negative stuff that surfaces up, right? It's
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
didn't get that, and that's what breaks my heart. And that's a lot of what I feel like I'm hearing so much of versus we probably need, as those of us that are people are having better experiences, probably need to surface more ideas of like what's working and what are we doing. And it's also like I have a really lean team. So it's not as if I have all these resources and you need a ton with AI now and so many of these tools that are coming about that are leveraging AI and like automation, like automated workflows, making it easier for hiring managers as much as it's making it easier for us in recruitment or on the people side. That's where as HR leaders, we need to be really thinking forward and leaning into these new tools to help us get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think about that so often. Like we are a team of two, so it's me and my direct report, and she handles most of our recruiting. But every now and then, when she really has a lot of roles, I'll tap in and be like the lead recruiter on a role. And even recently, somebody was like, "You were so communicative with me at the beginning, but like now I haven't heard anything in a few weeks." And I try like my hardest to at the very beginning be like, "If you're the first candidate I've talked to, I will tell them like you're the first person I've talked to in the process. We're estimating like 4 to 6 weeks." But like with this specific candidate, we had actually decided to move differently internally and actually not hire for the role. So like when I went back to this candidate, I went back and gave all the explanation as well. I was like, hey, when we started talking, here's where we were as a company. Here's what's evolved in the last few months. Here's where we're headed. Like we're not hiring for this role. Like we genuinely loved talking to you, but we're going to go in a different direction completely. It's not about you. It's about what the role of the organization needs. And I think after that, she gave me a lot of praise back. That was like, thank you. I didn't think I would hear all of this context. And so when I think about leaving an impression, I feel like a lot of people get an impression from like half a story. And so like my goal is like, I'm going to try to tell the candidates the full story of like why it is the outcome was different than the initial outcome that they thought it was going to be because everyone always goes into the interview thinking and wishing and hoping, I hope I'm going to get this job. Right. And so I think like as much as possible, the more context you can give candidates, the better. For a while, there was like this whole thing happening in recruiting where people were like, don't give the candidate feedback. Like that feedback can be weaponized. And I'm like, if we go a different direction, we should tell the candidate why. And if it's
100%.
for a real reason, they should know the real reason. They shouldn't get a fake ass reason. So I think like that advice I haven't heard in a while. But like I feel like years ago, people were like, never give any feedback. Like that feedback can be so dangerous. And I'm like, if you're running a fair and equitable hiring process and it's structured, there should be no reason why you can't give the candidate feedback on why you went a different direction. Unless, of course, the direction is you just liked someone better or you felt like they were just going to be the person you wanted to hang with, which like we all know that's not how you run recruiting. Like this is not about who
Yeah.
you're getting a beer with, it's who can actually do the job. Just saying. Okay, we have three more questions. Drop your questions in live Q&A because we want to make sure we get to them. I want to talk real quick, like low lift, high impact. Because I hate this phrase, do less with more, but I want to reframe it as like, what are some,
Do more with
just like
less.
one low lift, but very high impact, quick win that you all think could instantly level up a candidate experience? And the second part of this question is without burning out recruiters, because my heart goes out to these recruiters that have so many recs. Maybe they're the only person on the team, Riley, only person on the team. You're one of one, and you're doing so much and trying to build such an incredible candidate experience. But again, you're tasked with everything. So I want to give a tactical, low lift, high impact, quick win. What do we got?
Yeah. I'm happy to jump in and start on this one. I've already mentioned the rejection emails. So regardless of how quickly you're moving people forward, obviously you want to be as quick as you can, but just giving people, like Heba said, as much context as you possibly can. Sometimes you might not be able to give the entire story, but giving them more detail than they had before your email is ultimately what the goal is, right? We just want to, again, give people as much information that you would like to have if the roles were reversed. A thoughtful rejection email, adding specific feedback based on interviews or based on their resume if they haven't gone through the interview process yet, or whatever that looks like. It takes 2 minutes, and ultimately it has the highest return on investment that you can possibly find for recruiters and for rejections. So doing that as much as you can, and ultimately you can build that in through your ATS. You can have templated emails that are already all built out and have the exact wording that you want. And all you have to do is add a sentence or two to give the specific feedback for that individual. And it feels really, really personal. And also, it's not leaving them completely in the lurch. We've all gone through interview processes where you apply and then you don't hear back for 6 months and then it's just an auto reject. That sucks. No one ever wants to be treated like a number or feel that way in an interview process. So again, just adding a little warm touch as much as you possibly can. And again, ultimately, golden rule: treat people how you want to be treated. Um, in terms of not rejections and actually moving people forward, another thing that I want to touch on that I know Serica does that's really, really awesome is just a little welcome email from the CEO. That can also be templated. All we have to do is add in the individual's name, and it still feels like an absolute fresh touch, all the way from the most high up person in the company. And that's, again, just a really, really easy thing for people to add to the candidate experience, because ultimately day one of your job is still pretty much a candidate experience. Um, those are kind of some low lift, high impact stuff that we've done over at Western Computer that has definitely made an impact.
Yeah, I
Love.
would say like understand your ATS, right? Like a lot of these ATSs now are building in like automated capabilities such that, if you disposition someone or reject someone, it sends them, right? We've already talked about the rejection email, but the same can be done up front when you're sending, the initial email on like what to expect and like have that templated, like this is what you can expect from the process. And here's a lot of the stuff that Heba talks about, like you already talk about it when you meet with them during the initial call, but you can also make sure you follow that up with an actual templated email. Use the power of video wherever you can. That humanizes and that personalizes. And again, like I said, not that VidJart is always used for this purpose, but we use it. It's personalization at scale. That's what that means. Use the power of video. Nowadays, like we even have it like avatars. You can like train your own avatar that is you, and you just write it a script and it templates, and you can embed it right into an email. And then that way they get a sense of who they are about to meet, as rather than everything. We're kind of moving away from the world of just reading everything on text. Like I love voice notes and things for that reason, because it's so much easier and faster. So leverage these tools that are coming out. It's coming out for this reason, and automate wherever you can some of these sort of like where you don't really need human in the loop, like automate those things, build campaigns through automation. And again, a lot of these tools, newer tools that are coming out, shout out Team Taylor, but even the tools, if you're not in using Team Taylor, and there's other tools, a lot of people are building those capabilities out. Making sure that you have a very clear, like your job description, like make sure that you're constantly
Oh
refreshing
yeah.
your template for your job description. We just updated ours honestly like only a couple months ago, and my team was like, I don't have the time to like update with the AI stuff, and I'm like, I got it. It'll take me 20 minutes. I already know what I wanted to say, and I did it, and then I had them review it. Like it's, but that has totally changed the conversations we're having with candidates as well, that they realize, oh, this is like a very AI forward organization who's looking for people with these types of skills. It creates the right level of conversation that we're trying to have. It gets people are realizing, and we're also seeing people who are like opting out, like, oh, I'm not interested, which is always interesting to me. Oh, I don't really want to, I'm not interested in going too deep on AI. I want to do whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, well then maybe don't work at a tech company right now. But okay, great, great, got it. But we kind of know that up front, and equally on the other side of it, people are like, this is the reason why I wanted to come here, is you all are like
Yeah.
really, right? So we talk a little bit more, make sure, and then making sure that the requirements of the JD are very clear.
Yeah,
And you don't, right? And it's like, then right, like that helps the process. It makes people really understand not only the company that you are, but also this is the job that I'm going to be walking into. And that's,
Yeah.
there's a lot, that's a whole other separate topic on how we could do that and help your hiring managers, enable them how to use AI and automation to help that, because that's all stuff we're doing in my own organization right now. And then there are tools right now also that allow you to automate the pre-boarding. Most people don't have a pre-boarding. It's just like they, oh, here's your offer letter, talk to you on day one, and then you don't really hear anything, and maybe you don't start for a month for whatever reason. Like we leverage a tool called Kinfolk that allows us to automate our pre-boarding experience. And so we have videos where you get to meet me or the CEO or the CTO or whoever, and you get this whole like navigated experience that's completely freaking automated. That, and then people feel like I know what I'm walking into, like I know the culture that I'm walking into. I feel really comfortable on day one, and then you're onboarding me. That onboarding experience, I get it from people, and then we send out an email that gets automated from the team, like, hey, everyone in the company, these people are starting next week. Make sure to send them a nice like, go find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and like send them a
Yeah.
note. Like I get people day one are like, this is the most warm welcome I've ever gotten. And guys, you can automate all of that.
Yeah.
We don't even schedule our onboarding meetings anymore. I don't schedule a single, I mean, every new hire when they start. And the last couple of weeks, we've been blessed. We've had like cohorts of like 5 or 6 people each week. I don't schedule a single one of those calls. It's automatically done through Kinfolk as an AI people ops agent. And it's right there. They've had the experience. They knew who I am when they walk in, and we have like the most amazing conversation because I
Yeah.
don't have to do any work. It's amazing.
I kind of love that, the thinking about the automation piece, because that's something my recruiter and I just talked about yesterday. Because I was like, we should sit down for like an hour in the next time we meet up and talk about how we automate all of this. Because really, as you grow and scale the company, I do think like trends of the future is like HR teams will remain quite lean, and they will ask HR out of all the functions, I think the most, to leverage automation and AI to do a lot of the manual tasks that we are tasked with all day long. And so when I
absolutely.
also think low lift, high impact. I also talk like I love JDs. We're also really clear in our JDs, but something new that I've recently started doing is asking the hiring managers, like, tell me what success looks like in 30, 60, and 90 days. And then when we're going to turn around and take that info and we're going to talk, when we talk to the candidate, we're going to say, hey, like, say you accept this role. Here's where we envision it, where you would be in 30 days. Here's where we think you'd be in 60. Here's where you'd be in 90. I think when you give a clear picture of what this role looks like, already the candidate can say, like, yes, I want to continue opting into this. And it makes them even better at their job. Like, expectations is, I think, the number one thing a company can do to actually empower their employees to be great employees. Because the worst case scenario is you hire someone, you weren't clear with the expectations, they don't know what the first 90 days are going to look like, and they decide within the first 2 weeks, I'm out, and they will go find another job. And then all that time and energy your team just spent and money on finding these amazing candidates just went out the window. And so I think
Mhm.
there's like a lot of things you can do and not burn out recruiters, because I do feel like a lot of recruiters are getting hit on every side, candidate, hiring manager, executives, HR leaders. Their recruiters are at the core of that, and they're getting hit by everybody. And it's like we should think about what we can actually do to empower them and help them. And I think expectations can be one, definitely tech and automation. And I think to Riley's point, that like make them feel like welcome humans in your organization, and that pays back dividends. Those were all
100%.
Yeah,
really good.
that's a big one. A lot of people are asking, like, I don't even know where to start, but like it is important, anybody in HR. It's not just about being a leader in HR. You all need to start thinking about tech and like automation and innovation, but it's not just about the tech, right? It's not just about the tools. It's about the people. You have to redesign and rethink the way that you've known recruitment to be all along, and or insert any other HR process, right? Like, but it has to start there, because if you're just trying to do the way things have always been done and then throw a tool at it to automate, no, you have to rethink everything. Because, and also the power of AI and automation and where technology and innovation has gone is giving us a whole new lease on like our lives in HR, truly. Like, because if
Yeah.
you start thinking differently about, because the power of HR lets you do so many things. I'll tell you one right now. I just built a custom GPT this morning with my, so me and my, so I run our AI automation in priority, and me and our head of IT are like besties. Like we talk 100 times a day and we're always thinking of different ideas. This morning I had like my regular a coaching call that I do. I coach him every 2 weeks. And it then turned into like this custom GPT he made for the sales team to analyze gong calls and to coach them on like, and I was like, wait a second. I could do that. I want to build that as like a big jar growth coach because growth and development is the number one thing. My lowest score in engagement surveys every time we do an engagement survey, and my managers are struggling, my ICs are struggling. But wait a second, can I just build? I'm going to build a coach. Let's do it. Guys, we just built it in 15 minutes as a starting point this morning. It's like, but it's like, get with other people. Just because you're not a technical person doesn't mean there aren't technical people in your
Yeah.
business or somewhere, and you can lean in and throw some ideas around and test and learn. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm just throwing things and just trying to figure out what's going to work. It's the same thing here, but you got to rethink the way that recruitment is done. And it
I
starts with
really, I really want to build an agent for my hiring managers because when I think about candidate experience, I actually think we as a recruiting team do an excellent job. And where it all goes to shit is the hiring managers. And I'm
Yep.
like, I do not want a single person to show up to a call and be like, who am I talking to again? I'm like, can you not embarrass me? Can you not embarrass me? Like, we are doing literal work. We kicked off a role yesterday, sourced within our own ATS, reached out to 16 people, and within the same day we kicked off the role, had 10 people schedule calls with my recruiter for this week. And then she has another 6 next week. And the hiring manager was like, oh my God, how did you do that? And I was like, we sourced in our ATS. We had clear communication. We sent them comms right away. Things are ready. But like now I'm scared that hiring manager might not be able to handle that volume or is scared. So I'm thinking about building a custom GPT also for hiring managers so that they understand the candidate experience can only be guided by us so much and that
yeah.
they play an active role. And it's like a big piece of systems too, is like giving the hiring managers a system that they know how to use is really critical. I feel like we onboard a lot of tech and then are like, here you go, recruit this person, figure it out. And the hiring manager's like, wait, where do I put the scorecard? Wait, how do I find the resume? Wait, who are they talking to next? And I want to be like, stop asking me and go to a system and go find it. So like that's a big piece of it too. Okay, hold on. We have 2 more questions and we have to get to live questions. This is a good one. There's my transition. Hiring isn't just recruiting. How do you wrangle managers, ops, and recruiters into owning the candidate experience altogether? How do we wrangle people? That
I
was,
use the data. I use the
oop,
data and I like where I'm like, okay, because this happens all the time. I'll be in some big leadership meeting and some asshole leader wants to come in and blame and say, my risk, my biggest risk is that we don't have the talent. And I'm looking at these fools like the reason why you don't have the talent is because you ain't coaching and mentoring, and then they be walking out because it ain't on recruitment. Like, well, recruiting. I'm like, let me tell you where we are. Here's the process. Okay. Here's where we are. We started this process. We kicked this off 7 days ago. This is what we asked you all for. And by the way, this is sitting with your hiring manager who hasn't given us the feedback on what we need.
yep,
I don't say that as like I truly like I try to like be funny, and I'm like, I'm being obviously animated for you all. But I do, I try to make it lighthearted, like time out, let me show you where the data is, because I'm trying to like make it funny, but also like you need to see the data so that you clearly understand where the miss is happening. But here's how we're going to help you do that. Here's how we're going to help you get better at this.
yeah,
But it is so important as HR leaders when you're in those calls, you need to know your data. You need to know your nums. This is my last CEO or two CEOs always told me, know your nums, know your people, know your nums, know your customers. Because if you don't know the data and what the data is telling you, and you just sit there like, oh, okay, I'll go talk to my recruiters after this, and then you dig in and you're like, this isn't, because I will tell you 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time with this team that I have, it's not usually on my recruiters. It's usually that a hiring manager hasn't given us feedback, or a hiring manager hasn't finished the JD, or someone in the interview process hasn't given the feedback. But I get it. Recruitment, the systems are broken to make that easier. Again, I'm saying this because I'm demoing it and we're testing in a sandbox right now. So I'm not saying this because truly Team Taylor is not sponsoring me. But this is what we are really testing and learning, is like, it's a big topic that I talk about with our rep, is I have to make this easier for our hiring managers. Everybody is busy. Everybody's stressed. Everybody has less resources than they've ever had before, and everyone's got big priorities trying to get back to growth, especially in the tech space. Make it easier for me to enable my managers. And I will tell you, I'm the first to tell you that our recruitment process right now is too heavy in places because our system that we use right now isn't allowing for me to automate some of those things. So the biggest requirement that
Sure.
and take the notes and then put it into the interview scorecard so that it just makes it easier for them to just validate that the information that was generated by the AI summary is gets you 75% of the way there, or 60, even 60% of the way there, because it cuts a lot of time. And then that makes the process move faster because now I have feedback to know where my recruiters have to pivot. Are we getting the right source of candidates or are we not? Oh, we need to pivot here. But you can't do that without the feedback, but make it easier for our hiring manager and our interview teams. Make
Yeah.
them want to be a part of the process because the tool itself has enabled them to do that. That's a big piece of this. The technology has to help enable the process that we want at the end of the day. We design what we want, but the technology has to enable that.
You cut for
Totally,
like
totally agree.
you cut for like 1 second for me, Sarika, but I think you're back. God, internet issues have been terrible.
Oh,
I
I
think
don't
we
know.
oh, we
Sorry.
got you. I think we all it cut for like literally maybe 30 seconds, but I think we got back the gist of it. But Riley, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to completely agree with you. The other piece that I do as a recruiter is I really try to give all hiring managers the context. So I will literally trap everyone in a Zoom or a Teams meeting for an hour, walk through every single scorecard that I have built. I want feedback. Are these the right questions that we need to be asking the candidates? Are these the right technical questions? Are these the right culture questions? Like, what am I missing? I want your feedback. I'm doing it live because inevitably when I send people an email afterwards, or if it's only a 30-minute call or 20 minutes, they're never going to get back to me. Other things are always going to take over priority. And then I'm going to say, hey, remember last week when we had this conversation? I still haven't heard back from you. What the hell is going on? So I will, for every single role that is a brand new role, or if I haven't touched the specific role in 6 months or whatever, I will literally trap all of my hiring managers and all of my interviewers into a call for an hour and force them to give me feedback to make sure that we're evaluating for the right stuff. Um, Recruiters are the quarterbacks. Like, we are the people who are leading the charge, but
Yeah.
hiring managers are like the coaches on the sidelines running the plays. It's a team sport. It's not just one individual or one individual department that needs to be in charge of hiring. We're happy to be the ones kind of keeping everyone all together and herding cats and herding
Yeah.
headless chickens with their heads cut off. But we need the feedback from the hiring managers, and so just empowering them to be able to give you the feedback, whether again it's on the scorecards or if it's feedback on a specific candidate, like they know what their job is, and so do the interviewers, even if they're not making the hiring decision. So again, don't hesitate to trap people in a call with you and force them to give you the feedback that you need, because sometimes that's the only way we can do it, especially when everyone is busy and everyone's stressed. This just inevitably is something that falls through the cracks. So use your hiring power and your skills to force people into it and giving you what you need, right?
My favorite thing, and I say this so sarcastically, but my favorite thing is when hiring managers think they can recruit better than you.
Oh,
And
uh-huh.
like
I'll stop.
I
I
feel like
can't.
we're going to get on this call and I'm going to ask the questions I want to ask, and you are going to sit quietly and listen to me. So I feel like something that has been irritating me a lot lately has been that. And so I have started operating from like, and this is the feedback I give my recruiter too, is like, let's pretend nobody knows anything but us. Like I was like, we are the best recruiters. We're the best hiring managers. We're the best operations people for this recruiting role.
Yep.
We're going to operate like everybody else is a baby, and we're going to like handle it as if they need it. My dream is someday I don't have to handhold hiring managers as much, but I think reminding yourself that like we are the experts of the thing we are doing, and almost everyone else around us is not, is like a good reframe for it too. Because I'll explain like
100%.
why am I reading the JD and asking questions? Why are we doing a kickoff meeting? Why am I making sure you read this kickoff document that I send to every single person involved in this process? It's because we are not wasting my precious time with all of us getting through a process and then finding out in the 10th hour, oh, the candidate, nobody asked the candidate about this one competency area that we're really worried about. Which,
Yep.
true story, just actually happened to me. And I myself wasn't involved in the interview process. Like I wasn't a panelist, I wasn't one of the interviewers. I then had to take another call with a candidate because nobody pressure tested in the one area that we had outlined in the questions that we wanted to know for sure. And so I came back to that hiring manager. I said, this can never happen again. When I outline competencies and assign you questions, you were to tell me these are the right competency areas. You were to also tell me these are the right questions. And then everybody is to go execute on my plan. So that's like the other thing too. I think hiring managers think like, well, I'm the hiring manager. I can ask whatever I want. And I've gone back to the conversation and been like, you cannot. You are to vet for the talents and the skills we need, not just having a beer with this person. So I think like that's the other piece too. Just remember, nobody knows your job better than you. and operate from like everybody is at a 0 and your team is at 100, and your goal is to get everybody at least 50% of the way there. So like that is a good reminder I give myself, because some days I'll send Sarika a voice note and be like, these hiring managers are going to be the death of me. Like they will not listen to me. She got that one this week, but it's not here nor there. My last question before we get to live Q&A, because I think this is a really important one to call out, because we've all seen the TikToks, we've all seen the LinkedIn posts. Gen Z is one of the generations that I think can smell the fake BS branding a mile away. So I want to talk for like 1 second on branding, because a lot of candidate experience is also a branding exercise for your company. What's the one red flag that you think makes candidates roll their eyes?
You tell me one more time that we're like a family in this organization, I'm gonna punch you in the throat. Okay?
Yep.
You are not
No
my
violence.
family.
We do not condone violence on HR
I'm just
therapy.
kidding. Just kidding. I'm not really. The proverbial, I'm gonna punch you, just a little.
I
But
hope you
like,
step in the toe, is what I
you're
say.
not my family. I don't want to be your yeah, exactly, Tegan. Most families are toxic. Trust me, I got plenty. We are like, I prefer like we're a team. Like we're like a sports team, right? Everyone's got a part to play. Everyone's got their role for us to work together. Like everyone's got to do their part, meet us halfway. Like that's more my vibe. But if you're like, we're like a family here and like I don't want to hear that, because that is not actually the vibe. And it's to Tegan's point, and it's toxic. Also, I think Gen Z can very clearly tell when someone is like spitting bullshit about your culture. Like
Yeah.
it's, I'll say like, I'll tell you what, I don't love Glassdoor, because I don't actually think that like Glassdoor is always indicative of like, I think being on HR now, I feel that way more.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes I read our Glassdoor and I'm just like, what the that is just categorically not true. That's not even like the right data. But you can't really fight on like that, because I think naturally people that are upset or unhappy are going to be the ones that are going to go and like take the time to post something.
Yes.
It's like Google
Yes.
reviews. Like I'm
Yeah.
only ever post if I'm pissed. I'm not going to take the time, right? It's a conscious effort. So, but then it's like if I'm in an interview and I've like read their Glassdoor reviews, and then I kind of the energy that someone's giving, or they're like not paying attention, or they're like, you could just tell it's like that energy. I'm a Gen Z, I'm a geriatric millennial, but even I can tell in a call, like when I'm in an interview where I'm like, yeah, that's probably not true. Like if you're having a really great experience with your recruitment team and you're feeling like really good energy and the people you're talking to, I would say go with that gut. But if you're like in those conversations and the energy that you're giving and people are dismissing you, not making eye contact, can't talk to you about the culture, or like it's great, everyone's so friendly here, and it's very like generic, and people can't give you like specifics, Gen Z is gonna know right then and there
Yeah.
that like you
They're
don't,
going to opt out too. Like they've been
they're gonna opt out.
generation
Yeah.
to opt out of things way faster than any previous generation.
Yeah.
Totally. I am a geriatric Gen Z. I'm literally on the cutoff year. I'm born in
I
1997, so like literally the eldest Gen Z that you can possibly be. So something like that I've really noticed that I want to add on to is we really look for receipts. Like if we're gonna talk to a company and people are gonna we're feeling like we're bullshitting, I'm going to go look at Glassdoor. I'm going to go look at LinkedIn. I'm going to look at Google reviews. I don't care what it is, but I want to make sure that other people who are working there are actually agreeing. And obviously, we of course know that there's going to be a lot of negative posting. So you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. But again, like we really, really want to look for those cross checks, because if they're not matching up, we're going to roll our eyes and we're going to walk away from you. And it's going to be no guilt, like completely guilt free.
yeah.
So I don't, in authentic language, like we were just saying, is super, super important to us. We want to make sure that we're actually feeling the emotion behind the words. And again, like another one that I really hate that I roll my eyes at when I was going through the trying to find another job is asking for cover letters. What is that? What is that?
Fanfic.
That's yeah, it's literally fanfic that you're writing about yourself. I don't
Yes.
care about, I do not care about cover letters as a recruiter. Like if you want to submit one, hell yeah, maybe I'll give it a peek through, but ultimately I'm really looking for a great resume. Like no need to submit a cover letter. If people are requiring cover letters, that's such a big red flag to me. I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna submit an application probably. It's just
Our friend Jess Winder calls it fanfic. She's like, I'm not reading your fanfic to work at the company. I
She
don't
straight
does.
up.
She's like, I don't want you to write me fanfic for what it could be like to work here. Like she just does not do cover letters, and it always makes me laugh. Jess, love you, because that I think about that every time. But yeah, I think cover letters are a huge red flag, or like just an unclear process from the first call. So like my biggest
Totally.
red flag is like if the recruiter cannot tell me on the first call what this interview process is, I'm like, no way, no way. That means they don't have their shit together internally. So like our first call,
100%.
here are exactly the 4 people you're going to talk to. Here's a project and when you would do it if it's happening, and here's what the final call is. And so I feel like that's huge red flag for me too, because I'm like, if you cannot figure out what your process is on the first time you're having a call with me, that means you're not organized enough to deserve my greatness. Okay, but we have to get to live questions, y'all. We're doing great. Live Q&A. If you have them, submit them. I'm going to go pull them up right now because we have 9, and I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. Also, just to note, you can upvote, and I will answer the most upvoted ones, which right now the most upvoted ones have 2 votes. So I'm going to answer this one. We are so worried about overwhelming managers that we shy away from holding them accountable to what's required for the candidate and new hire experience. What do you recommend to strike a balance? I'll read that again for Sarika and Riley. Do you guys see? You can see the questions, right?
Yeah.
We're worried about overwhelming managers. What do we recommend to strike a balance about holding them accountable? It's a great
I'm
question.
so serious about trapping them in a room. Like, if you can't get the answers that you need from Slack or Teams or email or whatever that is, like throw time on their calendar where they have no choice but to be face to face to you, and you can get your questions answered. And also the inverse, they can ask any questions that they have about the process if they're feeling not supported. Like, what are the changes that we need to make? Throw time on their calendar. Like, they are not people for you to be intimidated by. And if they are, then maybe that's another HR problem that we can discuss. But again, ultimately, they just need someone to partner with them and really kind of hold their hand and walk them through it, especially the first couple of times. Don't hesitate to trap them on a call with you for 30
Yeah.
minutes if you can find the time. Like, just being face to face makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like +1 that we do like a very, when we do like the new role request, new requisition request, there's a lot of information that we ask them up front. And then we do like a full-on kickoff call where the recruiters are like setting expectations and like very clear what the process is going to look like, how they're going to be held accountable, what's the most critical parts that they need that's going to have the most impact on the process. And if we're not getting something, this is how we're going to communicate with you. Or like, we're going to put it in a channel with a bunch of people and your leaders, whatever.
Totally.
Set that like tone up front so no one's caught off guard.
Yeah.
But I think you have to hold them accountable. Like you can't, because the more that you hold them accountable, the better they're gonna get at the process. And then eventually it's just gonna become second nature, and it's not gonna take as much time every time you work with those particular hiring managers. I'm
100%.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing that. And we leverage our recruiters are like talent acquisition partners, just like the business partners are. We have a recruiter for like a specific part of the business, so they get real smart and then they attend specific meetings. So they're real clear on what the strategy is in that team, what the priorities are, where they're going. And that helps with the partnership to move with a bit more speed and to build that trust between the talent acquisition, their recruiter with their hiring managers. And that has definitely really helped in the same way that a business partner helps.
The last thing I will add before moving to this next one quickly is executive buy-in is also really important. So I feel really lucky that my CEO has made it very clear, like hiring talent is our most important goal for the success of this business. And he does not play when he publicly says that. And he makes it clear to every single person, like we are all trying to find people that are going to be brilliant in our environment. All of us are responsible. He takes every single final call. Like he is very involved in a +1 way, but I do also think it makes it very clear to any hiring manager involved, the CEO is one of these calls. And so if you want to be a good hiring manager, you have to show up as well. So like that executive buy-in has been great. I will move on because this next question is so juicy and I feel like we touched it lightly, but we should talk about this. I have been told by our counsel, love when legal counsel gets involved, that it's risky exposure to give disqualified candidates feedback when requested. What do you suggest to provide when candidates request feedback after sending a rejection email, after being sent a rejection email? By the way, I've gotten this advice from multiple lawyers as well.
That is
Sarah?
so juicy.
I mean, I think there is some truth to that though. Like, I think that depends on the feedback. Like you gave an example earlier. I was like, if we're changing the fundamental like responsibilities of the role or we're going a different direction, I think yes, we very clearly share that because it makes it very clear. Like it's not you, it's just we decided that we're going in a different direction and we're not going to hire this or we need to hire something else. That's easier because it feels less personal. I do think though there is some truth to if something is more like a personal
Preference.
feedback,
Yep.
you do need to be careful because we are in an environment, and then you throw like different countries in the mix and like laws and regulations there. Like, I do understand why we can't always give personalized feedback. And I too also want to err on the side of like minimizing the amount of risk for us as an organization, because I have seen a number of times where people take that and they weaponize it to their advantage. So I think sometimes how I overcome that is like at least giving them like when we do I hate the term rejection, but like know that I don't mean it in a negative way. But when we do have to give like a rejection, we try to humanize the like here are tools or here's resources and things, so then people like don't pay as much attention that we didn't give them very specific feedback. When someone goes through a pretty hefty interview process though, we do try to be we do end up having like conversations like what kind of feedback, like, and maybe it is like, hey, like it came down to two of you and we like went somewhere else with someone that has like a lot more experience in this
Yeah.
particular area that we prioritize. So it doesn't make it personal about them, but we try to at least say like, hey, this is what it came down to, and we prioritize this particular thing in the experience that we need versus like, you didn't do this or you don't have this experience. We are very cautious in like how we give the feedback and making it not a personal thing, but more of like a generic feedback, but still giving them enough still giving them enough to pull like I just didn't have enough of those skills that they prioritize, if hopefully that makes sense.
I will say if you're running into a lot of rejections based on personal preference, that is an opportunity for your hiring process in a nutshell. Like if you get feedback on why a candidate was rejected and you are actually scared to give that feedback to the candidate, that's an opportunity to also understand like how are we making hiring decisions and like should we be making hiring decisions the way we are. So I do agree like when it comes down to personal preference, it can be risky, but as much as you possibly can, figuring out a way to like make sure that the feedback you're giving does not expose you to more risk. Every legal person will tell you that. I have one last question, and then I will have to wrap us up because I think this one is also really great.
Is this
What
the as oh no.
what recommendations do you have for new managers? Most of our workforce are new managers and would love some insight into your experiences empowering new managers. I have this very really, so I'm going to answer it. Sorry, Riley and Sarika, because I have a lot of people who have never managed before and who have never hired before. And so what I have done for new managers is when I do a kickoff call, I'll actually extend it and it will be a little longer, which is kind of annoying, but I'll just talk them through what is the goal of hiring? What does it look like to be a hiring manager? And what are my expectations for them? With ChatGPT right now, like written stuff is really helpful. So I will go and like outline our process. I have a 5-page hiring guide, and I will make sure to tell them, like, please read this hiring guide before you come to this call because I want to make sure that you're best set up for success. So I always frame it as like, I want to make you successful as a new manager and a new hiring manager. Here are some resources I need you to read, to watch. There's a lot of great videos out there too on like recruiting. I send articles all the time and I say, here are some articles about why our hiring process is built with a structured interview process. And I ask them to like do a little bit of like homework before they get the opportunity to graduate and be a hiring manager. So I really try to turn it into like a fun learning experience. And I also check in with them very regularly. If they're a new manager, they're getting more check-ins than somebody who's hired before. They're probably getting like weekly check-ins from me at this point. That's how I handle new managers. Sarika and Riley, anything to add?
I think that's great.
Yeah,
You
I think
have
you nailed it.
you have to handhold like that. This is the hard part about new managers is like you have to handhold. They don't know what they don't know. Again, remember, everybody is at 0. We are at 100. How do we get everybody to 50? Incremental small steps in learning and really like rely on written comms because those can be super powerful. Okay, I have somebody asked a template. Maybe I can give you a template. I have a 5-page hiring guide I make everyone at Workweek read. So there's that. What's next? There'll be a follow-up email. I'll try to share as many resources as I can. And we will have another episode of HR Therapy in September that you can sign up for. We'll tell you how to sign up for it, September 24th. Some quick final takeaways. Just want to say a mega huge thank you to everybody on this call for participating, being such active participants. Riley and Sarika, my recruiting queens, monsters, whatever. You all are the best. Thank you for spending time with me today. And thank you to Team Taylor, one, for just letting me have fun. I get to do this event because of them, but two, also having an exceptional product that I'm deeply envious of anyone who gets to use. So, highly recommend you check out Team Taylor because they've been the coolest thing I've ever seen. Also, their colors are pink, like I hate it here. So, I love it. I'm biased. I'm a millennial pink, also geriatric. But thank you everyone for today. This has been so much fun. Sarika and Riley, y'all are my favorite. Wait, I'm
Sorry,
gonna,
I was trying to answer as many questions that were left as possible.
we will
Millennial
try.
versus
I don't know
Gen Z
yet.
heart.
This is how we do it.
Millennial versus Gen Z heart. I'm obsessed.
Oh,
This is so fun. Thank you, everyone. I will try to get you all a template. I promise. I will work on a template. I have it. It's a 5-page guide. An 80s baby, also an 80s baby. I love the
80s
80s.
baby. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye. I'll see you next month.
Bye.